if you're a CFFC fan or you live in New Jersey, this man really needs no introduction whatsoever. But if you're not, we'll lay it out there. The Ultimate Fighter 7 cast member, two-time Bellator veteran, two-time IFL veteran, Ricardo Almeida black belt, Dante Rivera. And should I say retired MMA fighter? Because, Dante, I kind of feel like if you got the right offer, you'd fight again.
You know, I retired in 2015. But I keep saying, I got one more left in me. You know, I train with the guys, and I'm always like, I got one more left, but I don't know if I can make a whole camp. Every time I train for a week, I go home like, for one round. That's about it. But if the offer is right, I'll take it. Listen, I would love to fight with it. I'd love to fight with those Paul brothers. It's a nice big payday.
Everybody wants that fight, right? That seems like easy pickings.
Yeah. Hey, listen, those kids are tough. People like to talk shit about them, but both those kids are tough. They can fight.
Yeah.
So
respect for that. Well, let's talk about your fighting career, man. How you got started. I mean, you turned professional back in 2002. I mean, that's before the Ultimate Fighter 1. That's before really the sport started getting popular. I mean, it was kind of underground back then, man. So how did you get into mixed martial arts?
To be honest, I always loved the UFC. I was kind of a rough kid, man. I was never a bad kid. I was just a kid that liked to fight, like to throw my hands a little bit. But I was a big basketball player. And I remember I was playing basketball one time. I was at halftime of a game, and I'm walking by this gym, and this guy half my size. He's rolling around. I said, it's like the UFC stuff. And I said, the guy walks over, sees me looking in the window. He goes, why don't you come try it one day? I said, fine, I'll come. I'll give it a shot. I'll give everything a shot. I come the next day. And the next day, he says, hey, you want to wrestle around a little on the mat? I said, this guy's in my head. I'm like, he's half my size. He's out of his mind. I start wrestling him. He chokes me 50 times in 6 minutes. I was hooked. That's it, And I was a guy by the name of Eddie Rowland, And then I was with him for about a year. I had a fight. And then no discredit to him. It's just there wasn't a lot of fighters in that gym, and I kind of outgrew it. He actually sent me with open arms. It was his idea. Said, why don't you head over to Ricardo Almeida? They have a good fight team there. That's probably where you want to go, And he sent me there. I went there, and I've been with him, with Ricardo, for 20 years now. So
that's absolutely incredible. Yeah, black belt from him. He trained alongside Renzo Gracie for a lot of that time as well, right?
Yes. Me, Renzo, Ricardo, guys like Tom DeBlass, we were all inseparable. And it's a rough room back then, It was, we tried for MMA fights. It was me and Tom DeBlass. We were like blue belts and 10 black belts from Brazil that were all world champions. So it was not an easy room, So there was no I tell these guys nowadays, they said, you guys got it very easy right now, So they have no idea. It's trial by fire there. I remember me and Tom DeBlass used to try to kill each other. I remember Renzo Gracie walking over to me like, what's wrong with you guys? You guys don't like each other? I said, we're like the best as friends, but we're trying to show off in front of you guys, But and then me and Tom we'd laugh about it afterwards.
That's incredible. So how do you look back on your fighting career, man? I mean, is there anything that you would have done different or adjustments you would have? I mean, this was a time where I feel like we were all still learning the sport, trying to figure out how to even train for the sport and do the sport. So how do you look back on your fighting career?
Well, I mean, I had Ricardo and Enzo, so the preparation was easy. Those guys were fighting overseas, the Pancreas and Pride, and they had all the experience in the world, And I had a lot of, I finished 80% of my opponents, a lot by submission. So I was one step ahead of the game with submissions. I think I wish I would have, I was so pure pro jiu-jitsu. I wish I would have worked a little bit more aspects of my game. I mean, I became a very good wrestler and, of course, I had good jiu-jitsu. And the training now is a little bit, to be honest, I wish I knew what I know now. I think if I had my physical ability back then and how I am now, because teaching brings out the best in you. And I've been teaching now for a long time. I was teaching at Ricardo's from 2008 on, and then my own academy since 2013 till now. So I feel I'm so much more skilled now than I was, that I would probably, in my head, who knows if it's true. I think I would beat a lot of guys, even guys in the top 15 at least, but that's in my head. I could be wrong. I could get beat up too. You never know. But in my head, I believe I'm way more skilled. And the problem is with fighting is I had a fight career where I was always training for a fight. I fought a lot, in those years I fought. And when you're training for a fight, you're not really training to get better. You know, now that I'm teaching, I'm teaching, I'm very articulate with the moves because I have to be precise with them. So I'm paying a lot more attention to them. And then I'm training a lot more to get better. I'm like, oh, look at this move. Let me try this. So now I had a lot of time to also improve, you know? Not that I wasn't improving back then, I was, but it's a little bit harder to improve when you're constantly in a fight camp.
Yeah, that's what you hear guys say, right? The
Yeah.
fight camp is about getting in shape and preparing for a certain person, not about actually, rounding out your entire skill set.
Yes, yes.
So you mentioned it. You opened your own academy in 2013, Dante Rivera BJJ. The decision to open your academy, was it just a business decision? Was it a passion decision? Was it a little bit of both? What was the reasoning behind opening your own
Both.
school?
I always wanted to be instructor. I was always a good instructor, especially I'm great with the kids. And I knew I had to retire at some point. And I always wanted to do what I wanted to do in life. And I love what so to get paid to do what I love to do. I mean, I would do this for free and I'm making a living off it. So it's unbelievable, you know? And now that I can't fight no more, I live vicariously through my fighters, you know? So, I mean, you see me corner before. I'm practically over the cage screaming at the top of my lungs. So, I mean, I'm in there with them. So,
I love it. I was going to ask you about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Also, they represent my name. And to me, a legacy is more important than money, you know? Even though money's important, a legacy is more important, you know?
That's well said. Well, I was going to ask you, I mean, kind of your coaching philosophy. Like, I love watching you coach. There's times when we're commentating the fights where I just kind of lay out so we can hear you, man, because it's intense. I mean, you're as passionate as it gets. I mean, you're in there, like you said, you're screaming, you're yelling, but it's also very specific instructions as well. You know, it's not the just get up. It's, here, place your, hand here, buck this way, move that. I mean, it's great instructions. And what I've also seen talking to your team is that your guys have complete and full faith and belief in you, which is awesome to see. So, I mean, is there an overriding philosophy or approach that you kind of have to the way you do things?
This is my philosophy. First and foremost, my team is like a family. I don't allow any BS in my gym. And if you're not part of the family, you're out of there quick. I've had guys, I'm not saying names, that were high level up, and they were not team oriented. They were like, well, look, I'm at this level now. I'm like, I don't care. I don't need accolades. I could care less. You know, where I live, people all know who I am. That's good enough for me. And I live a happy life. I don't need no accolades. I don't need people to come up to be like, oh, you're Dante. So I don't care. I don't care if you're the UFC champ. If you don't do the right thing, I'll be like, see ya. I can care less, you know? And what makes our team tight is forget like jiu-jitsu, we're all close. There's 40 guys in one class on a mat, and you got a mixture of guys who are lawyers, doctors, teachers, and then you got these pro fighters that are mixing with them that are being so gentle with these older gentlemen and gentlemen who are not in the shape they're in because they all trust each other because there's no ego in my gym. And they also make the fight team, it's important. I make them all hang out. But like, listen, we're going to my house, we're having dinner. All these, no excuses. You're not there, you're not fighting. Why? Because they become so tight-knit. If you watch them, they all cheer for each other. They all go for each other's fights. There's no certain cliques like there are in other gyms. They all stick together, and that comes from trust. They all trust each other. They're all friends with each other. And I believe the trust goes a long way. If you don't trust me, how are you going to listen to what I'm telling you to do? You know, I tell my fighters, you got to be able to try. You got to be able to believe that if I tell you stick your finger in your ear in the middle of a fight, it's for a reason. Like, you got to trust everything I tell you, you know, and that comes from spending time with these guys. If I'm only on the mats with them and yelling at them, and then off the mats I get careless if they're not doing well, they're struggling, they have no money. I've had students, multiple students that I bought cars for, paid their rent, like helped them come along, you know, just to get them on their feet. So they have to understand that first and foremost, we have to be a team and be a family first. And then from there, that's why you see I believe they do so well. Yes, they have good instruction, but they also trust 100% what we're doing. So
that's interesting, because I was going to ask you, the success that you've had is unbelievable. I mean, it seems like every time we do a CFFC card, Dante Rivera BJJ is going 2-0, 3-0, 3-1. I mean, incredible success. So do you attribute that more to the team feeling, or, I mean, can you pat yourself on the back and say, no, I'm a pretty damn good coach too?
I think it's a little both. I think I'm a good coach. I pay attention. I watch a lot of tapes. I pay attention. I don't coach every person the same. Like, I'm not going to tell one fighter to go for a flying jumping guillotine when I know another fighter's good at like wrestling and taking a guy down. One guy might be better on his back. One guy might be better on top. So you have to know your fighters completely. You can't coach them all the same exact way. They all have this specific skill set that they're good at. And you have to find that. So that means you have to be patient and not lazy and pay attention to every fighter during every aspect of the game to know what they're good at. And then I develop each guy according to what they're good at.
That's smart.
But then it
That's
also does help that we all trust each other also, like I said before. So
absolutely. And you're doing it long enough. That's pretty cool to see. You've got guys that you've taken from the time they were little kids to now they're actually fighting professionally, right? I mean, how satisfying is that or exciting is that for you to see? I've seen that kid literally come up since he was a little kid and now he's in there.
Oh, that's amazing. I have a student, Brandon Smith. I have a picture of him. He's 9 years old. He started with me, and he's the best kid. He trains every day hard. And he said, I just want to be a fighter, coach. I want to be a fighter. I said, okay. When he turned 18, a couple of weeks back, we just put him on the Cage Fury card, and he won it under a minute with a rear naked choke. So the best part of that is he's being interviewed, and I believe by Din Thomas. And he's like, well, what's next for you? He goes, well, I got the prom next week. So I'm like, the experience to get that on that stage in Cage Fury, it's a big show, big stage. To get that experience to still be in high school, it's just like, but for me to just mentor him all the way up, because it could have been, he could have said he wanted to be a professional tennis player, whatever he wanted to do. It's the fact that what he chose to do was become a fighter. And I watched him live his dream and put in the hard work. And I was there every step of the way. And now he became a fighter and now he's successful. So that makes me very happy. He could have told me he wanted to be a racquetball player. And as long as I was there with him and I watched him from 9 years old to that point, he made it. That makes me very happy. That means I did my job as an instructor and a black belt. I guided him to where he wanted to be.
That's pretty incredible. And I guess, Dante, I mean, I got to believe you feel this. I tell everybody, I think every kid should be in martial arts, man, and not necessarily because they want to fight. I mean, my own son is 10 years old. I hope he doesn't want to be a fighter. I don't want to see my kid get punched in the face, but I got him doing martial arts because I believe it's so important just for confidence, for life lessons. I got to imagine you feel the same. Martial arts, I think, is something that every kid should be doing.
This is a funny thing. I was just speaking about this with one of the parents. I have a student, right? And she's a young girl. When she first started with me, she had to be 9'10", okay? She was crying on the mat. She couldn't get on. For 4 weeks, she was crying. Long story short, I get this, another gentleman comes in with his two daughters. He goes, I want to sign up. I signed my two daughters up. I said, well, what brought you to the academy? He goes, you know your student Marlo. I said, yes. He goes, well, last year she was this timid little girl. This year, she's scoring every goal. She got most improved player. She's destroying everybody. So I took the father aside, and I said, well, what's the difference? He goes, jiu-jitsu. Her confidence is completely different. So now she's my student, her father, and now him and his two daughters, they're my students. And that's the key. The key is I explained to these kids, I said, I have a big, huge kids program, and I don't make adults compete. They compete if they want, but I make every kid compete at least once. And they're like, why? I said, because if they could fight out of a choke in front of 2,000 people, everything in life is going to be easy for them. Tests, anything they put their mind to. So think about that. So the discipline that it takes for me to even allow you to compete, I don't allow no fun and games. They get in there, they train, and then when they do train, their confidence level. So whether they win or lose, you stepped on the mat, you're fighting out of a choke. I tell kids, this is hard. I said, that's hard. You just won a tournament last week. Nobody scored on you. Shut up and do your homework. He's like, you're right, professor. I got parents come up to me and they're like, my kid's on honor roll, and he was a D student a year and a half ago. I said, it's all attitude and confidence. Also with self-defense, with all the crazy stuff that's going on, all kids have to do, I tell parents, I said, all the kids have to do is stand up for himself once in school. Nobody will bother him again. They can be like, it's not worth it. But when they know that he's weak and they can bully him, then he's going to get taken advantage of. That's it. So it's also good to learn that self-defense. And now the kids, all they want to do is they want to be on the iPad. They want to play video games. No, get them out here. Let them be physical. Let them have a camaraderie. There's a lot of kids. They gain friendships and they train hard. They respect each other. They learn respect at a young age. So.
Well said, man. I think it's incredibly important. Well, Dante, for you, is there something you kind of joked earlier about fighting the Paul brothers, or you would take a fight, but do you still have a need to compete, like whether it be grapple? I mean, is there still something that needs to be there, or does the team fulfill that for you?
The team kind of fulfills, but I'm a fighter. Every fighter will tell you the same thing. It's in It's in our DNA. We always think we got one more left. We always got to compete when I see them. And I always want to test myself. I still train almost every day. I still roll around on the mats, I got to remind these kids that they still get beat up by this old man, So they always I'm the grand prize. And they're like, I'm going to tap you, professor. And I'm like, no, you're not. Guy's been saying it for 10, 15 years. It's not coming. You guys are my students, It's going to come one day because I'm getting old, but now's not the time. I still train. But I feel like I have one more left. I always wanted to just do one locally just because I have a big following here and it would be kind of cool. But if the right opponent comes along, I'll do it, I want to figure before I'm 50, maybe I'll try to do it. If I hit 50 or not, I won't do it. But it's just hard because I'm always busy coaching, and half the time I'm like, I want to roll. And I don't leave the academy sometimes till 10:30 at night because I coach the guys at night, and then I'll be like, stay a little bit so I could get some training, because I'm more into watching these kids get better than I am to make myself better right now at this point.
I love it. Well, you got a roster full of killers, man. I can attest to that. I guess, it may be tough for you to even say this, but are there any names that people need to be paying attention to right now, whether it be maybe some guys with fights coming up or some guys that are on the verge of the next level? I mean, who would you tell people to watch out for from the school right now?
Coming up in amateurs, I got a lot of monsters. Luke Fernandez, we all know who he is. The kid's a monster. He's 5-0, 4 first-round finishes, Got Eric Nolan, who's another monster. Jerry Lesh, like this. I can literally everybody on my team that are amateurs that are monsters. I got all 3 of the Caracappa brothers. Like Phil's another animal. To me, Phil should be undefeated. He just got unlucky in the cage twice. In his 2 losses, he's 10-2, but 2 unlucky fights both fights that he was winning. You know what I mean? So he could easily be 12-0. His younger brother, Nick and Matt, Matt was 6-0 as an amateur with like 5 first-round finishes. His brother, Nick, is 2-0. I think all I'm waiting for is their parents to start fighting too, the 3 brothers. So, because I had their cousin that fought too. To be honest, every one of my fighters I'm pretty lucky. They're pretty much all tough. I got a lot of good guys coming up, so the amateurs are all coming up. The key is they follow the game plan. I really can't pick. I think they all have the potential to go as far as they want. They all train hard. They all want it. They're all disciplined. So I just can't. It's hard for me to just pick one. The guy who I say is the closest. You're probably going to see Phil Caracappa in the UFC in the next fight or two. He's a monster. So that's the closest to the big show. And then I don't know. To be honest, I can't pick. I got faith in every single one of my kids. I can tell you all of them. In my head, I believe all of them. All of them are going to have a black belt. All of them are going to be in the next level. All of them are going to be successful. That's how I feel about my team. I have utmost trust in all of them. So,
I love it. Well, you got a gym full of killers. I'll be the first to attest to that, man. I feel lucky to call a lot of their fights at CFFC. So I guess we'll just plug it. Dante Rivera, BJJacademy.com. If anybody wants to drop in and come learn from a legend. And if not, just tune into CFFC on UFC Fight Pass. You'll definitely get entertainment from Dante Rivera. Dante, appreciate the time. It took too long to get this done, but I appreciate the time, my man.
No, thank you, brother. You're the man, brother. I appreciate it.